Good day. I begin by acknowledging that although we are sharing this message electronically, we are, many of us, living, learning, and sharing on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe. We recognize their continued and historic connection to this land, and we pay our respects. Have you ever seen a movie where the commanding officer of a group of soldiers on the eve of a dangerous mission is trying to give them a pep talk? Now, people, be careful out there. Watch out for your surroundings. Watch your back. Put all of your training into play. Go out there and make me proud. That, my friends, was, in a strange way, my experience with racism. My life story began in a predominantly white neighborhood in England, something similar to nearby Ancaster, which is a little bit ironic when you consider who the first inhabitant of that town was. I spoke the Queen's English. I watched English TV, both channels. Don't hate, it was long before today's channel multiverse. But so much of our existence is tied to land and the land of your birth, the land where you lived. And I lived in England, but I knew from an early age that I really didn't belong. Everyone said something like, why don't you go back where you came from? And by that they meant because I was black, I didn't belong in England. I didn't have a right to be there. There was a rise in a number of right-wing nationalist groups that were anti-immigrant and pro-racial violence. One of them even proclaimed that they would create rivers of blood. It was probably a good idea not to be in that country. And I don't want you to be confused. I'm not talking about 2021. I'm talking about 1965. Isn't it funny how some things haven't changed, really? Same shiggity, different day. Anyway, we decided to leave the country, and so we did. I didn't know it at the time, but my mom and dad had been preparing me for life and life's lessons by teaching me how to protect my heart and soul, that was my mom's area, and how to protect yourself, that was my dad's department. I'm glad I had those lessons because I needed them to make it through my life. But the most important lesson that I learned was that I should navigate this world as a worthy soul, not because of the people around me, but because of the principles and the love I carried within me. And as a result, I could walk through this world even though people treated me as if I was worthless. I was supposed to set a good example. I had to be on my best behavior. But the hardest lesson of all was that I had to work twice as hard to get half the credit as my white friends. Isn't that crazy? That was my reality. Anyway, I didn't understand how the world worked like that, but I'm glad that I learned those lessons early. But let me share you a personal example of a dangerous mission that I was on. This is my first day in a Canadian school. So picture this. The recess bell has just rung, and I'm hoping to go out there and make new friends. What happens, though, shortly after I leave the building, I'm surrounded, and into that circle of kids who are shouting, "Get the N-word, get the N-word, fight, fight, fight," is this big kid, one of the bigger kids from the next grade. And he wants to fight. I don't want to, but I also don't want my younger brother to have to experience this. He throws a punch at me. I block it, as I was taught, and he broke the band of my brand new watch. So my hope of making new friends turned into a fervent wish. I wish that you get up and try that again. Now, violence doesn't solve everything, anything, but I didn't think I had a choice. I thought that I was doing something to protect my brother, and as a matter of fact, it did protect my brother, but what it also did was cause a revenge cycle. Now, that big bully had a couple of big, mutantly big buddies, And they made it their personal mission to ambush me every day on the way home from school. Mostly I was able to either handle or avoid. But it took a while until I could make some friends who helped me. And when I told them my struggle, they helped me. And as a result, I learned a couple of good lessons. One is you have to confront racial prejudice when you see it. You have to confront it when you experience it. But the more important lesson I learned was it's a whole lot easier and a whole lot more effective when you have allies. Well, as difficult as that physical challenge was, and many, many, many like that, they were dwarfed by the systemic racism that I experienced that attacked your soul, attacked your mind. I'll give you an example. In most Black families, there is two discussions that happen, especially if it's the boy. One is the burdens and the bees, and the second is how to take care of yourself and keep yourself out of trouble when you encounter the police. And those encounters could be frequent because quite likely you would be pulled over for DWBB, driving while being Black. And yes, trust me, it is a thing. The advice goes something like this. So when you get pulled over, turn off the radio, take off your hat, sit up straight, take your wallet out and put it on the dashboard before the police get to the car. Don't ask any questions. Don't give any attitude. Don't argue. Yes, sir, and no, sir. Because the point isn't for you to find out why you got pulled over. The point isn't for you to argue. The point is for you to get out of that situation with as little hassle and as little harm as possible. Now, the sad thing is that was what you had to do. The sadder thing is, it still happens today. So I now find myself somehow moments later from those childhood experiences as an elder in the community. And my role and my goal is to pass on what was passed on to me from my parents and from those in the community who have gone on to those younger ones with their fresh ideas and fresh energy so that they can continue the struggle. Because you see, it's said that it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes generations to elevate a people. And one thing I've learned from the time I was a child, that struggle is a lot easier if you have allies. My experience as a Black child was similar to others of my generation and of my age, and that was we saw very few examples of people who look like us shown as being excellent unless they were in sports or they were in entertainment. So I really feel the need for Black History Month, but one of these days, I really look forward to Black history just being history, celebrated whatever day it happens. We don't have an Italian History Month. We don't have a Russian History Month. We just have history. But unfortunately, so much of Black history has been lost or hidden or ignored for so long that something did have to happen. Some attempt had to be made to bring it to light. And so I'm thankful for Black History Month. We try to speak our truths, even the painful ones, but the systemic reluctance to hear us and to acknowledge our contributions to the human family, to the world, made us invisible and of no account. Our story must be known because it's a complex weave of joy and pain and achievements and strengths and challenges and resilience. We need help to combat the lies and help to combat the prejudices and help to combat the presuppositions of Black and brown people. So this message now is to the wider audience. If you want to help out, if you want to really get into the real meaning behind Black History Month, then it's not good enough to just not be racist. You need to be anti-racist. If you see something, say something. Better yet, do something. Thank you.